When Linda Carter stood in front of the grand gates of Silverstone Manor, her hand gripping her 8-year-old daughter Amelia's, she felt both awe and apprehension. The sprawling estate was unlike anything she had ever imagined. A world of towering trees, vibrant gardens, and the whispers of a life she had only dreamed of giving her child. For Linda, this wasn't just a job as a cook but a chance to rewrite their story and offer Amelia a future she could barely envision. But life at Silverstone Manor was more than marble floors and crystal chandeliers. Beneath the beauty and luxury, relationships were about to be tested, barriers were waiting to be broken, and lives would be forever changed. From the moment Amelia met young Ethan Blake, the heir to the manor, an unexpected bond formed, one that would weave their destinies together in ways no one could have predicted. What happens when two children from worlds so far apart discover the power of friendship and love? And how will the secrets of the past and the expectations of the future shape their lives? Join us on this unforgettable journey through joy, heartbreak, and triumph. If you're a fan of stories that touch the soul and explore the strength of human connections, subscribe to our channel and become part of a community where every tale leaves a mark. This is just the beginning. Let's dive into the world of Silverstone Manor together. The gates creaked open slowly, revealing a long, cobblestone driveway lined with oak trees whose sprawling branches created a natural canopy. As Linda and Amelia walked toward the towering manor, their footsteps echoed softly against the stone path. Linda adjusted her grip on Amelia's hand, her nerves betraying the confidence she tried to project. Amelia, her small face filled with wonder, looked up at her mother. "Mom, is this really where we're going to live?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, sweetheart," Linda replied, her voice steady though her heart raced. "It's not the big house, though. We'll have a little home near the garden." Amelia didn't care about the size of their house. To her, this place was a palace. She imagined herself exploring every corner of the estate, from the shimmering pool she glimpsed through the trees to the vibrant gardens bursting with flowers in every shade of the rainbow. As they approached the imposing oak doors, Linda straightened her posture. Her new employer, Sophia Blake, was known not only for her wealth but also for her generosity and fairness. Yet Linda couldn't shake the fear of judgment. Would they see her as just another employee, or would they accept her and Amelia as individuals with their worth? The door swung open to reveal Sophia herself. Her impeccably styled hair and warm smile immediately put Linda at ease. "You must be Linda," Sophia said in a voice that was as welcoming as her smile. "And this lovely young lady must be Amelia. Welcome to Silverstone Manor." "Thank you, Mrs. Blake," Linda said softly, bowing her head slightly. "Please, call me Sophia," she replied, stepping aside to usher them in. The interior was breathtaking. Marble floors stretched endlessly, reflecting the glow of crystal chandeliers that cast a soft light across the elegant furniture. Amelia's eyes widened as she took in the grandeur, but she stayed close to her mother, sensing Linda's unease. "This will be your new home," Sophia continued as she led them through the house. "Linda, I'll show you to the kitchen shortly, and Amelia, I'll make sure you meet some friends around your age." Amelia's heart raced at the thought of making new friends, though she wasn't sure if the wealthy children in a place like this would accept her. Before she could dwell on the thought, a boy burst into the room, nearly crashing into Amelia. "Ethan," Sophia scolded gently. "Slow down. We have guests." The boy, about 10, had a mischievous grin, messy brown hair, and striking green eyes. He turned his attention to Amelia and offered a sheepish smile. "Hi, I'm Ethan," he said. "Do you want to see my toy car collection?" Amelia looked up at her mother, who hesitated before Sophia interjected. "Of course, she can. Go on, Amelia. Ethan will show you around while I talk with your mother." Amelia followed Ethan hesitantly, her small hand still clutching her mother's for a moment before letting go. As the two children disappeared down the hall, Linda turned to Sophia. "Thank you for this opportunity," she said, her voice heavy with sincerity. Sophia placed a hand on Linda's arm. "You don't need to thank me. Let's ensure this is the start of something wonderful for both of you." Amelia and Ethan became fast friends, spending the afternoon racing Ethan's toy cars across the hardwood floors of his sprawling bedroom. The room, filled with books, games, and treasures from faraway places, was unlike anything Amelia had ever seen. Yet Ethan treated her not as an outsider, but as a faithful companion. "You're good at this," Ethan said as Amelia's car won yet another race. Amelia grinned shyly. "My mom and I used to play with toy cars when I was little. She's fast, too. Maybe next time she can race me," Ethan joked, making Amelia laugh, a sound that filled the room with warmth. Over the following weeks, the children became inseparable. They explored the manor grounds together, from the sun-dappled gardens to the hidden nooks of the estate. Ethan showed Amelia how to climb the oldest oak tree on the property, and she taught him how to build forts out of fallen branches. Their favorite spot was the garden pond, where they spent hours watching dragonflies hover over the water. They made up stories about the fish and frogs, turning the pond into a magical kingdom where Amelia was a brave knight and Ethan was a clever inventor. Sophia noticed their growing friendship and encouraged it at every turn. She often included Amelia in family outings, from picnics by the lake to trips to the city zoo. Though initially apprehensive, Linda relaxed as she saw how genuinely Sophia treated them. But not everyone approved. The manor's head housekeeper, Mrs. Alden, often gave Linda disapproving glances. "It's one thing to work here," she muttered one day, "but to have your child running around with the young master? That's asking for trouble." Linda overheard, but chose to remain silent. She had faith in Sophia's kindness and Ethan's sincerity, though a small part of her couldn't help but worry about the differences between their worlds. One afternoon, as the children played by the pond, Linda and Sophia sat on a bench nearby. Sophia turned to Linda, her expression thoughtful. "I've noticed how close Ethan and Amelia have become. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?" "It is," Linda admitted, "but I can't help worrying. Their lives are so different. I don't want Amelia to get hurt." Sophia nodded. "I understand your concern. But let me assure you, Linda, as long as I'm here, Amelia will always have a place in this family. You both will." Sophia's words brought tears to Linda's eyes. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of her struggles begin to lift. As the sun set over Silverstone Manor, casting a golden glow over the garden, Linda watched her daughter laugh and play with Ethan. In that moment, she allowed herself to hope for a future where love, not social standing, would define their lives. The months passed, and Amelia and Ethan's bond only grew stronger. They were inseparable, spending countless afternoons exploring the sprawling grounds of Silverstone Manor. From building forts in the garden to daring each other to climb the tallest oak tree, their days were filled with laughter and adventure. To Amelia, Ethan was not just her friend. He was her escape, her sense of belonging in a world so unlike her own. However, whispers began to circulate among the staff. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Alden, voiced what others only murmured privately. "The young master and the cook's daughter. It's improper. It will only lead to trouble." Linda overheard these comments during her long hours in the kitchen. Though Sophia continued to treat her and Amelia with respect and kindness, Linda couldn't ignore the occasional disapproving stares from the staff. Her heart ached with worry. Would these whispers eventually reach Ethan's father, Mr. Blake, who was away on business for most of the year? And if they did, what would he think of this unlikely friendship? One evening, as Linda prepared dinner in the quiet kitchen, Sophia entered. She noticed the worry etched on Linda's face. "Linda, is something troubling you?" Sophia asked gently. Linda hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. "It's the children. I hear the whispers, Mrs. Blake. People disapprove of how close Ethan and Amelia have become. I don't want Amelia to get hurt." Sophia's eyes softened, but her voice was firm. "Linda, let me tell you something. This house and this wealth mean nothing if we lose the ability to see people for who they truly are. Ethan sees Amelia as his equal, and so do I. No one will make her feel otherwise as long as I'm here." Tears welled in Linda's eyes as Sophia placed a reassuring hand on her arm. Though Linda still worried about the future, Sophia's words gave her hope. As the years passed, the once carefree days of Ethan and Amelia's childhood began to fade. Now a teenager, Ethan was enrolled in an elite private school in the city while Amelia continued at the local public school. Their time together was now limited to weekends and holidays, yet their bond remained strong. Whenever Ethan returned home, the first thing he did was seek out Amelia. Their favorite spot by the garden pond became a haven where they could reconnect, share stories about their lives, and escape the pressures of growing up. Do you ever feel like everything's changing too fast? Amelia asked one sunny afternoon, swinging her legs as they sat on the pond's edge. All the time, Ethan admitted. Sometimes I wish we could just go back to building forts and catching fireflies. Things were simpler then. Amelia smiled wistfully. But we can't stay kids forever, can we? Ethan looked at her thoughtfully. No, but I'm glad I have you. You make everything feel normal. Amelia's cheeks flushed at his words, and she wondered if Ethan felt the same flutter in his heart as she did when they were together. To her, it was more than friendship now. A quiet, unspoken feeling she kept locked away, unsure if he felt the same. Ethan's 16th birthday brought with it a grand celebration at Silverstone Manor. The garden was transformed into a magical scene, with twinkling lights strung through the trees and tables adorned with elegant centerpieces. Guests arrived in droves, dressed in their finest, laughter and conversation filling the warm evening air. Amelia watched the festivities from the sidelines, and her mother was busy coordinating the catering staff. Though Sophia had insisted Amelia attend as a guest, she found herself drawn to helping her mother, uncomfortable with the idea of mingling among the wealthy crowd. "Why are you hiding here?" Ethan's voice startled her. She turned to see him standing behind her, dressed sharply in a suit. His green eyes sparkled with mischief, and his grin was as familiar as ever. "I'm not hiding," Amelia protested, though her cheeks betrayed her. "Yes, you are," Ethan said, taking her hand. "Come on. You're not just anyone here, Amelia. You're special." Before she could protest further, Ethan led her to the dance floor. The music slowed and D her waist without a word. Without a word, Amelia's heart raced as they swayed under the golden glow of the lights. It felt like the world had fallen away momentarily, leaving the two of them in their universe. But as the night wore on, Amelia began to feel the weight of their differences. While Ethan mingled effortlessly with his peers, laughing and joking, she felt like an outsider. Though Sophia had always treated her kindly, Amelia couldn't shake the fear that others didn't see her the same way. The following week, Ethan prepared to leave for his new boarding school. Amelia helped him fold his clothes as he packed, her movements slower than usual. "I'm going to miss this," Ethan admitted, breaking the silence. "You." "Us." Amelia looked down at her hands, unsure of what to say. "You'll make new friends." "You always do." "Maybe," Ethan said, "but it won't be the same. No one else knows me the way you do." As Ethan's car pulled away the following day, Amelia stood by the gate, watching until it disappeared. Her chest felt tight as if a part of her had been taken with him, but she resolved to stay strong. She had her dreams to pursue, and she wouldn't let the ache of missing Ethan stop her. The days that followed were quiet, yet Amelia worked harder than ever at school, earning top marks. One evening, Sophia approached her in the kitchen. "Amelia," she began, "your mother told me about your grades. I know you want to go to college, and I want to help." Amelia's eyes widened. "I can't let you do that, Mrs. Blake. It's too much." "Nonsense," Sophia said, her tone gentle but firm. "You're part of this family, and family helps each other." As Sophia's words sank in, Amelia felt tears sting her eyes. She then realized that Sophia's kindness wasn't just generosity but love. Love didn't see barriers of wealth or status, but only the person she had become. The years following Ethan's departure to boarding school were a period of transformation for both him and Amelia. Ethan thrived in the elite academic environment, excelling in sports and building connections with influential peers. Meanwhile, Amelia poured herself into her studies at the local public school, earning admiration from her teachers and classmates for her determination and brilliance. Despite their growing physical distance, Ethan and Amelia maintained their bond through letters and phone calls. Ethan's letters were tales of his new adventures, tennis tournaments, late-night study sessions, and the complexities of navigating a world filled with privilege. Amelia, in turn, shared stories of her successes at school, her burgeoning passion for literature, and her small, quiet victories in the life she was building. Their correspondence became a lifeline, a bridge connecting their vastly different worlds. On rare weekends when Ethan returned to Silverstone Manor, they would retreat to their favorite spot by the garden pond. Here, the years seemed to melt away, and they spoke not as individuals separated by circumstance, but as two souls who understood each other completely. "I feel like I'm living someone else's life," Ethan confessed one summer afternoon, tossing pebbles into the pond. "It's all so polished, so perfect, but it doesn't feel real." Amelia looked at him thoughtfully. "Maybe it's not about where you are, but who you choose to be in that world. The Ethan I know is kind, curious, and brave. Don't lose that." Ethan smiled, his green eyes softening. "I'm lucky to have you, Amelia. You keep me grounded." Unbeknownst to Amelia, Ethan's feelings for her had begun to shift. What once felt like a simple friendship had deepened into something far more complex, a realization that unsettled him. Could he risk the bond they shared by revealing how he truly felt? Amelia's hard work and dedication paid off when she received a scholarship to a prestigious university in a neighboring city. The news was both thrilling and daunting. While the scholarship covered her tuition, it did not cover her living expenses. Amelia wrestled with the decision, unwilling to burden her mother, Linda, with the financial strain. Sophia, as always, was quick to notice Amelia's quiet struggle. One afternoon, she invited Amelia to the garden for tea. Sitting under the shade of the old oak tree, Sophia placed her hand over Amelia's. "Your mother told me about the scholarship. I'm so proud of you," she said warmly. "But I also know you're hesitating because of the costs." Amelia looked down, her cheeks flushed. "I don't want to take advantage of your kindness, Mrs. Blake. You've already done so much for us." Sophia's voice was gentle but firm. "Amelia, you're not taking advantage. You and your mother are part of this family, and family supports each other. Let me help with your expenses so you can focus on achieving your dreams." Tears welled in Amelia's eyes as she nodded, overwhelmed by gratitude. For the first time, she believed the future she had dreamed of was within reach. That summer, as Amelia prepared to leave for university, Ethan returned home after completing his final year. He was now a young man, taller and more confident, but his warmth toward Amelia remained unchanged. They spent hours together, reminiscing about their childhood adventures and sharing their hopes for the future. On their last evening before Amelia's departure, they sat by the garden pond, the moonlight reflecting on the water. Ethan broke the silence first. "Amelia, there's something I need to tell you." Amelia turned to him, her heart pounding. "What is it?" Ethan hesitated, the weight of his emotions visible in his expression. "I don't want to lose what we have, but I also can't keep pretending that you're just my friend. You mean so much more to me." Amelia's breath caught in her throat. She had dreamed of hearing these words, but never thought they would come true. "Ethan, she began, but he interrupted gently. "You don't have to say anything now. I just needed you to know before everything changes." Amelia placed her hand over his, her voice steady despite the rush of emotions. "Nothing will change who we are to each other, Ethan. No matter where life takes us." They sat silently, their hands intertwined, as the night enveloped them in its quiet embrace. Though unspoken, a promise lingered between them, that time and distance could never break their bond. Amelia's first weeks at university were both exhilarating and overwhelming. The campus buzzed with energy, filled with students from all walks of life. For the first time, Amelia was exposed to a limitless world: intellectual debates in the lecture halls, late-night study sessions in the library, and the possibility of friendships that crossed cultural and social boundaries. Despite the excitement, Amelia often found herself thinking of Ethan. Their parting words replayed in her mind, his voice lingering in her heart like a melody she couldn't forget. They spoke on the phone when they could, sharing details of their new lives. Now enrolled in a prestigious business program in another city, Ethan seemed just as busy as she was. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of classes, Amelia sat in her dorm room, staring at her phone. A message from Ethan appeared. "Ethan, do you remember the oak tree by the pond? I sat there today and realized it's not the same without you. Call me when you can." Amelia smiled, her heart warming at his words. She dialed his number immediately, and they talked for hours. Though miles apart, their connection remained unshakable. Back at Silverstone Manor, Linda continued her work as the cook, proud of her daughter's accomplishments, yet quietly missing her presence. Sophia often checked in on Linda, offering words of encouragement. "She's going to do great things, Linda. You've raised a remarkable young woman." But not everyone shared Sophia's enthusiasm. Mrs. Alden, ever the skeptic, muttered to another staff member, "Mark my words, that girl is reaching too high. She doesn't belong in that world." Linda overheard the comment and clenched her fists. For years, she had tolerated Mrs. Alden's judgmental remarks, but now, thinking of Amelia's hard work and potential, she resolved to no longer let such words affect her. One day, while preparing dinner, Linda confided in Sophia. "Sometimes I worry, Mrs. Blake. What if Amelia faces the same judgment I do? What if people don't see her for who she truly is?" Sophia's reply was firm. "Then she'll rise above it, just as you have. People like Mrs. Alden see the world through their limitations. Amelia's vision is far greater than that." The first holiday break brought Amelia back to Silverstone Manor, and Ethan was already there waiting. Their reunion was as natural as breathing. They fell into easy conversation, catching up on everything they had missed. One crisp winter afternoon, they returned to their favorite spot by the garden pond. The oak tree's bare branches reached the sky, and the frozen pond shimmered under the pale sunlight. Ethan brought a thermos of hot cocoa, and they sat on the bench, sipping the warm drink while their breaths fogged in the chilly air. "You seem different," Ethan said, studying her face. "More confident." Amelia smiled. "University has changed me. The world is bigger than I ever imagined, and I'm starting to see where I might fit in it." "And where do I fit?" Ethan asked, his tone playful but his eyes severe. Amelia hesitated, unsure how to answer. "You've always been there, Ethan. I think you always will be." Ethan reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small notebook. "I wrote something for you while you were gone. It's not much, but it's how I feel." Amelia opened the notebook and read his words. It was a beautifully written letter full of his memories, hopes, and feelings for her. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked up at him. "Ethan, I don't know what to say." "Say you feel the same," he said softly, his green eyes searching hers. Amelia's heart pounded as she nodded. "I do. I've always felt it. I just didn't know how to tell you." For the first time, Ethan leaned closer and kissed her. The world was still around them, the cold air forgotten as warmth blossomed between them. When they pulled away, Amelia smiled shyly. "Does this mean you're mine now?" Ethan grinned. "I've always been yours." Their blossoming relationship wasn't without its challenges. Over dinner that evening, Linda noticed how Ethan looked at her daughter. She pulled Amelia aside later, concern written all over her face. "Amelia, are you sure about this? You're both so young and come from such different worlds." Amelia took her mother's hands in hers. "Mom, Ethan doesn't see me as different. He never has. And I won't let what other people think define us." Linda sighed, realizing that her daughter had grown into a strong, independent woman. "Just promise me you'll protect your heart, Amelia." "I will, Mom," Amelia said, hugging her. "But I think Ethan might be protecting it for me." The days following Amelia and Ethan's confession of love were filled with quiet joy. They allowed themselves to be open about their feelings for the first time, stealing moments together amidst the holiday bustle at Silverstone Manor. Yet, their happiness did not go unnoticed. Mrs. Alden, ever the watchful skeptic, had observed their closeness and took it upon herself to voice her concerns to Sophia Blake. "Mrs. Blake," she began cautiously during one of their daily check-ins, "I'm worried about T. Amelia's influence on the young master. Their relationship seems inappropriate, considering her position." Calmly sipping her tea, Sophia placed her cup down with deliberate care. "Mrs. Alden," she said, her voice steady but firm, "if there is one thing I have taught my son, it is to value people for their character, not their status. Amelia is an exceptional young woman, and I trust Ethan to make decisions guided by integrity. I suggest you focus on your duties and leave the young people to theirs." Mrs. Alden stiffened but nodded, retreating without another word. However, Her disapproval lingered in the house like an unspoken tension, and it wasn't long before whispers began circulating among the staff. Awareness of the scrutiny, Ethan confronted Amelia one evening as they sat by the fire in the manor's cozy library. "I know people are talking," he said, his green eyes clouded with frustration. "And I hate that they're making you feel like you don't belong here." Amelia placed her hand gently on his. "Ethan, I've been an outsider my whole life. I've learned to let words roll off my back. What matters is how we see each other." Ethan leaned closer, his voice filled with resolve. "Then let's give them something else to talk about. I want to take you out, Amelia, on a real date. Not hiding by the pond or sneaking into town. I want the world to know you're mine." Amelia hesitated, the weight of his words sinking in. "Ethan, I'm not ashamed of us, but what about your family's reputation? The expectations they have for you?" "My only expectation is to live a life that makes me happy," Ethan said firmly. "And you're a part of that." On New Year's Eve, Ethan brought Amelia to a charity gala hosted by his family. The grand ballroom was filled with dazzling lights, elegant decor, and Austin's most influential figures. Amelia, dressed in a simple but beautiful gown gifted by Sophia, entered the room on Ethan's arm. Heads turned, whispers rose, and a few judgmental glances were cast her way. Ethan ignored them, guiding Amelia confidently through the room. "Stay close," he whispered, squeezing her hand reassuringly. "You're the most important person here to me." As the evening unfolded, Amelia's initial nervousness began to fade. Sophia introduced her warmly to guests, praising her academic achievements and ambition. Ethan's friends were equally welcoming. Many admired her resilience and kindness, yet only some were supportive. A family friend, a wealthy businessman named Mr. Carmichael, made a cutting remark. "Ethan, surely you could find someone more fitting for your station?" Before Ethan could respond, Sophia stepped in. "Mr. Carmichael," she said coolly, "what makes someone fitting is their character, not their wealth. Amelia is more than fitting. She's extraordinary." The room fell silent, and Mr. Carmichael quickly excused himself, his face flushed. Ethan turned to Amelia, his pride evident. "You see? My mom knows exactly how to shut them down." Amelia smiled, her confidence growing. That night, as the clock struck midnight and the fireworks lit up the sky, Ethan kissed her in front of everyone, their love a bold declaration against the prejudice surrounding them. As the months passed, Ethan and Amelia's relationship grew more substantial, but challenges continued. One spring afternoon, Amelia received an unexpected visitor at her university, a man she hadn't seen in years. Her father. Linda had spoken little about Amelia's father, a man who had abandoned them when Amelia was just a toddler. Now, standing before her, he was older, worn, and full of regret. "Amelia," he began, his voice heavy with emotion, "I know I don't deserve it, but I want a chance to make things right." Amelia was stunned. The pain of his absence came rushing back, but so did the memories of her mother's sacrifices. "You want to make things right now," she said, her voice steady but cold. "Do you know what my mom had to do to raise me alone? Do you think you can just walk back into my life?" "I understand your anger," he said, "but I've changed. I've been sober for 5 years, and I've been searching for you and your mother ever since." Amelia didn't know what to believe. She agreed to meet him again, but only after speaking with Linda. Her mother's reaction was cautious. "Amelia, forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, but trust needs to be earned." Ethan supported Amelia through the emotional turmoil, often driving hours to see her on weekends. She confided her fears one evening as they sat on a park bench near her campus. "What if I let him in and he leaves again? I don't think I can take that." Ethan took her hand, his voice steady. "Then you'll face it like you've faced everything else, with strength and grace. And you won't be alone. I'm here, Amelia." Their conversation gave her the courage to approach her father with cautious openness. Over time, he proved his sincerity, showing up consistently and expressing genuine remorse. Though their relationship remained fragile, it was a step toward healing. Amelia's resilience inspired Ethan to reevaluate his future. One evening, as they walked through the garden at Silverstone Manor, he spoke of his dreams. I don't want to follow the predictable path everyone expects of me. I want to create something meaningful. Amelia's eyes sparkled. Then do it, Ethan. You have everything you need: passion, drive, and a good heart. Her encouragement spurred him to action. Together, they began discussing plans to start a foundation to support underprivileged students, giving others the opportunities Amelia had fought hard to achieve. Ethan and Amelia's idea for a foundation grew from simple conversations into a passionate shared goal. Late-night phone calls turned into planning sessions, with Ethan leveraging his business acumen and Amelia using her understanding of people and communities. They decided to name their organization the Silverstone Initiative, a tribute to the place where their story began. Amelia's first-hand experience with financial struggles shaped the foundation's mission: to provide scholarships and mentorship to talented but underprivileged students. Inspired by Amelia's determination, Ethan vowed to oversee the financial planning and ensure the initiative was sustainable. Sophia Blake, ever the supportive matriarch, became their biggest champion. "This isn't just about helping others," she told them one evening over dinner at Silverstone Manor. "It's about creating a legacy that reflects who you are. I'll contribute the first donation to get it started." The announcement of the Silverstone Initiative garnered immediate attention, with prominent donors and community leaders expressing interest. The launch event was planned as a gala at the manor, and Amelia worked tirelessly alongside Ethan to ensure it would be a success. The night of the gala, Silverstone Manor sparkled under twinkling lights. Guests mingled in the garden, enjoying the elegant ambience and the vision of hope the young couple presented. Ethan stood at the podium, addressing the crowd with heartfelt words. "This initiative is more than a charitable endeavor," Ethan said, his voice steady and clear. "It's a promise to lift others the way Amelia has inspired me. Her strength and resilience are the heart of this foundation, and we are here tonight because of her." Amelia, seated beside Linda, felt tears sting her eyes as the guests erupted into applause. She glanced at her mother, who squeezed her hand. "You've come so far," Linda whispered, her voice filled with pride. "And you've made a difference already." As the evening wound down, Ethan found Amelia by the garden pond, away from the bustling crowd. He took her hands in his, the moonlight reflecting in his green eyes. "I couldn't have done this without you, Amelia." She smiled. "You would have found a way. You always do." Ethan shook his head. "No, you're my strength, my reason. And I want you to be part of my life forever." With a deep breath, Ethan dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a delicate ring, its single diamond shimmering like the stars overhead. "Amelia Carter," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "you've been my best friend, partner, and greatest inspiration. Will you marry me?" Amelia gasped, her hands covering her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. "Ethan, yes. Of course, yes." The joy in Ethan's eyes was palpable as he slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into a tight embrace. Their laughter and tears mingled as they kissed, feeling surreal and utterly perfect. Unbeknownst to them, Sophia, Linda, and a few others had quietly gathered nearby, watching the scene unfold. Sophia clapped her hands together, her eyes brimming with tears. "It's about time," she whispered to Linda, who nodded, her face glowing with pride. Months later, the garden at Silverstone Manor transformed once again, this time into a romantic venue for their wedding. Floating flowers adorned the pond, candles lined the paths, and the air was filled with roses. Amelia walked down the aisle on her mother's arm, her simple yet elegant dress reflecting her grounded nature. Ethan waited for her, his face alight with love and anticipation. The ceremony was intimate, filled with laughter, heartfelt vows, and the joy of two families united not by blood but by love and respect. Sophia and Linda stood side by side, shedding tears of happiness as they watched their children begin their new life together. The Silverstone Initiative flourished as the newlyweds embarked on their journey, touching countless lives and cementing their legacy. Now a successful psychologist, Amelia brought empathy and understanding to the foundation's mentorship programs, while Ethan used his business expertise to expand its reach. Together, they proved that love transcends social barriers, and that shared values and mutual respect are the foundation of a lasting relationship. Their story became one of hope, reminding everyone at Silverstone Manor and beyond that the most extraordinary bonds often arise from the most unexpected beginnings.